this is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California, here today to talk to you about Ujjayi breathing. In yoga, we have a lot of talk about like the mind, the body, and the spirit, and I could say that in America, there's a lot of body. That's pretty obvious. The mind is present, otherwise it's really hard to do, especially some of the harder poses. But the spirit, a lot of people wonder about that, or do you have to be Hindu to have the spirit, or where is the spirit within our asana practice? So let me lend this idea on spirituality. Breath, respiration, comes from the same root as spirit. Respiration is, if you will, the spirit, the tie that binds your mind to your body. So if nothing else, let the breath be important as a representation of your spirit during your practice. Now keep in mind, pranayama is the foundation of your asana practice. There's no asana without pranayama, okay? In English, there's no like physical pose practice as we think of it in America unless you have an accompanying breathing practice. It's the foundation. It's like building a home without a foundation. Pretty soon, especially if you live in California, you're gonna wind up without a home. Same thing, you practice yoga without your pranayama, all you're doing is an asana inspired workout. It's not yoga anymore. So make sure that the breath is important. Now, Ujjayi is an amazing breath. I have to say that if I had to take one piece of yoga with me to a deserted island, and it couldn't be a handstand, it would be Ujjayi. Ujjayi is something I use day in and day out, pretty much every minute of every day, just to keep me calm, keep me in equilibrium. It's something that you don't have to be doing yoga or practicing yoga to use. You could use it in work, you could use it at home, you could use it really anywhere you want to use it. What is Ujjayi? In essence, it's just sighing with your mouth closed. So think about it. Why do we sigh in real life? We sigh to release stress or tension. Okay, so maybe we sigh like when we're angry, like, or maybe like even a sigh of relief, like, but our body knows how to use our breath to calm us and to bring us back to center. So now we're gonna make that natural response into something that is actually conscious and conscientious. And so, we start by sighing. Because without understanding the sighing, it's hard to understand sighing with your mouth closed. So though it might feel funny, with your mouth open, take a big breath in and a big breath out, like notice, among other things, how the exhales just make you feel like, makes you feel sort of better. Okay, 2 more times. Breathe in. And on the last one, I want you to pay attention. There's sort of like a cold or a dry feeling in your throat when you breathe in through your mouth. See if you could locate that with your brain. Last breath, here we go. Big breath in and out through your mouth. Your mouth. It's your mouth. And we're gonna make an audible sigh on the exhale, like now, in order to do Ujjayi breathing, you have to become very, very familiar with what you just did. Because what would it take to recreate that with your mouth closed? And so, I like to imagine that my nose, because you're breathing through your nose, is in the base of my throat, right where that cold, dry spot is. So with my mouth lightly closed, I'm gonna take that same sigh breath, but it's gonna pass through my nose instead. There's like a slight constriction at the top of your throat, and I'm sure you've heard that before, but that's hard to figure out what that means. And so, take nose, put in back of throat, and see if you can breathe deeply so that the sound of the inhale matches the sound of the exhale, like The breath sounds sort of like the ocean. I used to call it Darth Vader breath. I work with a lot of kids. But then kids got so sophisticated, they told me Darth Vader doesn't actually breathe like that. He breathes like, which is definitely not Ujjayi breath. So let's just call it the sound of the ocean instead. If when you're breathing in, it sounds sort of sniffy, like, or when you're breathing out, it sounds sort of nose blowy, like, that's not exactly it. You don't want to feel a lot of breath coming out of your nose on the exhale, because even though this breath is passing through the nose, it's originating in the base of the throat. So it actually passes through the nose quite gently. At first, it might make sort of like a bear sound, like, if you're not really used to it, but at least you know you're breathing from the throat instead of from the nose. If it gets confusing, again, come back to the sigh and just see if you can recreate it with your mouth closed. Now, another thing about Ujjayi, this is actually a breath that resides in the lungs. So basically from your solar plexus up. So that when you think about a normal breath, when you breathe in, your belly has a tendency to expand, right? Because your breath goes down. Sometimes we call it like belly breathing. And when you exhale, the belly tends to contract. Well, in Ujjayi, instead of breathing into the belly, we're going to try to breathe only into your lungs. And so on the inhale, can you lightly engage your core? So just make those muscles strong enough that when you breathe in, the belly doesn't expand at all. You could even put a hand on your stomach to feel that as you breathe in and out. The stomach remains essentially still. In fact, you could even make it where the core muscles sort of suck in even on the inhales. So put your hands on your stomach, breathe in, try not to expand from the belly. And out. Remember, as always, sitting up tall is always also going to be important to any kind of breathing that you practice. So tall body, core engaged. When you breathe in, the beginning of the breath should feel like your lungs are expanding forward. If you could get deeper into the breath, you'll feel your side ribs start to expand. And when you get into the full Ujjayi breath, even your back ribs will start to expand. You can place your hands on your rib cage if you want to feel that. Again, core stays stable. Breathe in and in and in. Can you feel the expansion of the rib cage? Now, one more thing. Ujjayi is a very deep and long breath. So in order to get the long breath, it's hard to just be like, okay, and now I'm going to breathe my longest breath ever, go. It doesn't work that way. Well, I mean, it works, it just doesn't work that well. So instead, what I recommend is a breathing exercise that has helped me tremendously. When you breathe in, breathe to, say, the count of 3 or 4. It doesn't really matter. And it doesn't have to be like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. Just breathe to any count that you want. So we'll say 3. So we'll breathe in for, and then we're going to breathe out to 1 more. So 4. Then we breathe into the same number and breathe out to 1 more. Breathe into the same number. Breathe out to 1 more. I gotta go to a second hand. Breathe in to the same number. Breathe out to one more. Now you continue this exercise and see how many beats you could get in or out. Maybe you could get like a nice long breath of like 10 or 15 or even more beats on the inhale and or the exhale. But what I recommend is as you practice this breath deepening, if you get to a point where you're either gasping for air like or you feel like you gotta burst out like you went too far. So if you feel, well, I'm sure you can hear the garbage men outside. It's awesome when they come in the middle of my videos. Anyway, if you feel like the breath is super, super labored, just move backwards. You can start again from the beginning. 3, you can start from 5, 7, whatever is comfortable for you. So let's try this and see how deeply you can make your breath go. You ready? We'll start with 3. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. And out. It's a pretty good start. If you were able to keep up with me, that's a 10 beat exhale, approximately a 10-second exhale, and it's a great start. Keep in mind, among other things, that when we're moving through vinyasa, a lot of times you only have one breath to move through one or more moves. And so when your breath is longer, you'll no longer have to rush to keep up with the breath. Instead, the breath will buy you all sorts of time so that you can get through your vinyasa calmly. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Happy Ujjayi breathing, and I hope to see it in all our future videos. Ciao.